Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pragati Vichar Literature Festival's Authors Marathon. Today, we will be talking on history and politics, and the session theme and the name is Building Bharat Between Empire and Vision. I'm having Aditya and Abhash with me. I'll just quickly run into the introduction. First, on the panel, we are having Aabhas, who is an architect, urban designer, and historian. He is a founding member of the Foundation for Indian Historical and Cultural Research, which reshapes historical discourse through rigorous source driven scholarship. His body of work includes Babur, the Quest for Hindustan, Babur, the Chessboard King, and the hashtag Modi Again, an ex-communist manifesto. Thank you so much, Abbas, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here with all of you.
Next on the panel, we are having Aditya, who is an author and a policy thought leader. He leads the Pittie Enterprises Group, a diversified conglomerate with the interest in precision automotive and aerospace components, solar energy, fintech, and real estate. His family founded the Raja Bahadur Motilal Pune Mills Limited. Aditya is a University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and a Massachusetts Institute of Technology alumni, actively involved in nation building efforts. He regularly writes articles on policy in various publications and also co authored Modi's Northeast Story. Thank you so much, Aditya, for joining us today.
Namaskar. Pleasure to be here.
So, with that, let's dive into the interesting discussion I'm having for all of you. So, first question for both of you would be both of your books rely heavily on rigorous research and primary resources. So, how do you approach research to ensure accuracy and authenticity? The kind of genre, the kind of books that you guys are writing, I'm sure it would be, very heavily researched and, with a lot of facts and figures. So, how do you go about that? Let's start with Akash first.
Okay, so of course we go to the past first and then we'll come to the future and present, which Aditya ji will talk about. So, my body of work is, of course, it deals with history. And as we know, history is something where we take the things from the past and which we all are not very passionate about in the school days. Most of us hate history as a subject in school. But so be it, it was the case for me as well. And of course, I'm son of a historian, so I saw that how the history is taught, how history is read, what are the history books. They are very different books than what I used to read. They would be thick books and sometimes very weird cover pages. And you look at the history books of the past, they look just weird. But that's how I knew history as. And as far as my own research in history is concerned, and when it began, it certainly had the footprints of somebody who deals with technology because I'm an architect. Being an architect, urban designer, I deal with a lot of permutation combination day in, day out of my life because design is something where we build the stories for the people, as in we build the houses for them, we build the commercial spaces, the office buildings, etc. But we are selling a dream and also we are selling a story to them that this is how it will be. By doing so, we have already gone through a lot of rigorous process of triangulation, a lot of analysis, which works on a lot of science, which is climate, which is a lot to do with the thermodynamics when you talk about how the heating, ventilation, etc., will happen within the building. So there's a lot of science also which goes within it. So that footprint very much reflects into my own history research. I don't research it the way my father used to do it, and I tell it to my father also very confidently at times that I look at it from a very perspective of somebody who is a man of a science, who believes to reach to the rationality of anything. I will just not take any fact or rather any opinion just based on it that it comes from XYZ person. I will try to do the experiment observation and then I will infer. Then I will come with the inference. That's what we do in our science laboratory. So I knew one thing for sure that primary sources are something which is very important for history. But most of the people, primary sources means that, for example, I take the example of Babarnama, which is the primary source for my own writing. For a lot of people, it's the translated work which happens to be the primary sources. But translated work actually is a secondary source because it has got some biases of translator. A word can be translated into multiple ways, and some modifiers can be added to make a sentence mean something which actually it was never supposed to mean. And in fact, I myself have found a lot of discrepancies in translation which was done in the past by other great scholars. Of course, they were great in their own right. So I learned Farsi because I am dealing with a medieval Indian history. I picked the Farsi of that era, and then I went to the original manuscript, and that is what I continuously do. Go back to the original manuscript. I make my own notes of the translations, and then I go to the drawing board to frame the story. Of course, when I say story, people should not make that I'm making a fiction out of it. I mean to say that that's how I frame the thing after recording the translation. That's how my story goes through. I ensure to triangulate the things in a lot of cases where there's a lot of contradiction. Say, for example, क्या बाबर को राणा सांगा ने बुलाया था या नहीं बुलाया था, whether he was invited by Rana Sanga or not. Again, that needs a lot of triangulation because no source tell you directly that whether he was invited or not. So that's where the scientific argument comes in, that you superimpose all the things, then you conclude that how the things should go through. So language is a priority, then triangulation becomes a second important aspect for me. And of course, I don't try to align to any ideology because often when I'm asked that whether I'm a right wing historian or whether I'm a left wing, of course, the people don't judge me as to be a left wing. I'm very vocal about it. But irrespective of that, even if they try to say that you're a right wing historian, say I'm not because I'm a history wing person because I can irritate a right wing and left wing as well because history can irritate everybody. History can irritate every politician, and politics is where the left wing and right wing belong. So that's how the nature of my research is, something which can irritate everyone, but at the same time, it's very pro truth. I wish to be proven wrong someday also, so that I know that something more has come up. Okay, I was wrong, so I need to amend myself. I will be very happy to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, Aditya ji, your inputs into this.
Sure, so Atisha ji, this is, if you realized, it's a very data-rich book. The idea behind the book was to present an accurate snapshot of where Bharat is at today. And from here, how will we reach our goals of 2047? So I decided initially only to approach the entire narrative with data. We're in a world full of opinions. I can have an opinion, you can have an opinion, but a story I thought that is told with data will be much more accurate and much more valuable to the reader. I also happen to come from a science engineering background and from a corporate background. So I am naturally, inclined to think in terms of frameworks and data. So this involved a huge amount of study because, I have 20 chapters in the book covering all aspects of this vision of Viksit Bharat. Beyond economics, infrastructure, it also looks into social, cultural aspects. And it involved really a tremendous amount of study of raw data, reports from government departments, reports from NGOs, international reports. And just like Aabhas ji said, it also involved a lot of triangulation of this data. So, various sources showing me, what is there. I tended to be a little more, I would think, conservative with the data, picking out data that showed maybe a smaller number, not trying to go for very optimistic numbers throughout. Also, one other aspect was, aside from all this study, was how I could marry macro data with what I would like to say is micro stories. Luckily, I'm again from a corporate background running different industries. So I also have a, real life experience with a lot of things. So many things that I read about, which were maybe surprising or new to me as well, I tried to contact friends, etc., or people in my business network to recheck a lot of these things. So one thing is to see data on paper, but on the ground,
Hmm.
what is the feel? What are people saying? I talk about a particular, say, industry that I don't know much about. So I could reach out to people to understand these micro stories. But one thing that I would like to say for sure is that it was very challenging as well as great, exhilarating for me because through this process of writing a book, which took maybe 10 months or so, the data kept changing. So this also shows, with the speed and scale with which the country is developing. So keeping up to date with the data itself was another challenge.
Hmm. I totally get that. So I do hope the viewers are taking notes because such detailed answers from both of you. So with that, I would like to ask, both of you, how do you see the role of authors, intellectuals, and thought leaders in shaping public discourse? So, Abhashi, first, why don't you go first?
Let's see, there's one thing for sure right now is that we have Gyani at every corner right now, and I'm not telling it rhetorically or through satire, but I'm being very honest because what internet has done basically is that it has democratized the data, the information, and it's at your fingertip right now. Of course, there's a lot of books on history for which you need to go to the manuscripts, which you cannot access on internet directly. You have to go to the British Library, you have to go to the National Archives, you have to visit various places to get them, but still they are on your fingertips. But still, if some story has been written, it necessarily does not mean that it is trying to tell you what you are inferring out of it. It may be telling you something else too. And say, for example, I just take example of Rana Sanga again. When Babur writes that Rana Sanga promised him a support and then he betrayed him. Now, when you read it in Babarnama, you will infer that okay, perhaps Rana Sanga did not support Babur, and he betrayed him. This is what you will infer, and this is a primary source because this is Babarnama, right?
Hmm.
But then, the moment you open the chapter just before it, but for that you have to go to the work of Mewar, what the Mewaris are talking about it, as in the family of Rana Sanga or the people of Mewar who was recorded. Then you see a very different story. You get a story that Rana Sanga first was visited by Babur. Babur's people came to see Rana Sanga, sought the support, and then said that if you agree, then let us know through the same people. You send them back. So the same certain people go back to the Kabul and they say that okay, we are going to support you. So he skips the first part that Babur came to now, say that there is an opinion maker on internet. Like I said, that everybody is Gyani. That on social media, suddenly you will find a politician saying that, "Oh, Rana Sangan," and this source will come out. But intellectual, if there's an intellectual in the place, I'm not trying to say that I'm intellectual of this subject, but still say that somebody who deals with the subject and talks about it, what he will say, okay, fine, but this is the case. This is how exactly it happened. So now immediately the opinion are going to change when you tell the whole story. When you just don't take a 2 minutes clip out of a 2 hour interview, it's almost like that, right? And this is what a good opinion maker or a public figure, or rather, I would say, intellectual can do to the cause. And when everybody is Gyani around you with information being in your fingertip, that's when, like for example, I was going through the work of Aditya ji, and I had a fortune of reading the work, and the way the data are put, it's very elaborate, it's exhaustive, it goes on and on. It's a thick book and it's an important book to read. But what it does for you is that it is taking you away from the kind of misinformation which may be percolated through a long X post. Today we can do a long X post and people write essays on X nowadays, right? So, but when the data is, and this can only be done by somebody who is dedicated to the cause, who is actually a professional in that, right? It cannot done by any Gyani all around. So in the
Right.
time of now, where the things are so polarized, when I use the term polarized in terms of history because history polarizes the things, it becomes very essential that we present the fact as it is, and it can only be done through the people who have done the rigorous study about it. And that's where the role of intellectual becomes very integral, and we have to be very responsible. Because I just give you an example. Recently on a news channel, again a thing came up that Babur destroyed the Ram temple, and I have been debunking it since then because actually Ram Mandir was demolished by Aurangzeb. Now this is what I have established to 80 odd pages in my book. It took me a lot of. I analyzed the inscription and I went, but still, a news channel, a journalist also picks up a truth and puts it out. That okay, this is a thing. People are bringing the debunked data of 2010 that there's a Tulsi Doha Shatak which says the destruction, but that is a fraud document. And that is coming from so-called right wing, which people call me out, and I call it out that okay, this is what you are telling, right? Was this nothing happened? So that's where the role of the intellectuals becomes very important because you have to put these filters. Otherwise, information ka overflow itna zyada hai that people can get opinionated too much. You go to the Instagram and you see that everybody is doctor suddenly, right? Everybody is economist, everybody's opinion on everything. So that's where this intellectual really play a role. And I see that somehow we really have a lot of sane people around who are trying to put their efforts apart from the day work, try to do, because they are passionate about country, they are passionate about the profession, they are passionate about the good cause. And in fact, Aditya ji is a great example because he's not an author. If you ask me, he is somebody who is a corporate person who is putting the information for you in a form of a book. So the virtue of his by the virtue of his profession and his experience, he has become an author. But that is such an important work to do. You cannot just expect me to do that work. And that's the difference between me being a Gyan giver and he being an intellectual in this subject. And that's the difference what we really need to talk.
Hmm. Aditya ji, your inputs into this?
Thanks, Aabhas ji, for all your kind words. But I honestly believe that, an author, especially in the non-fiction genre, has a very important role to play. Because the idea is, how I feel a big responsibility when you're writing in non-fiction to, clarify a subject deeply for the reader. And like Aabhas ji said, this can be done if you are very transparent with your data. Again, from a corporate background, people may, A, I want data, but B, I also want to know where that data has come from. What is the citation? So that is very important. I approach this book literally like a thesis. If you write a thesis, and I have written one always asks where the data comes from. A, you have to give credit to the original source and you have to cite it. So in my own book, my reference citation section is 40 pages long. So I'm very clear where the data has come from and it's transparent. I also tell critics, if at all, who want to challenge me, that I'm not, got very fixed ideas, but I'm always ready to expand my mind and learn something new. But tell it to me with data and also what the source of the data is. It shouldn't be WhatsApp University. Once you tell me a reliable source, I am willing to correct myself and learn something new. Nobody knows everything. The other point is, I think it is an important thing to bridge policy with the common public and the reader. I think that, policy documents sometimes are too dense and mainstream media at a lot of times is oversimplified. And a lot of times the narratives are biased. So I think this is also an in between where one can, give very good, valuable, verified information to the public and to the reader, which straddles the gap that exists between these things. And I also find that, nowadays narratives are really weaponized to a great extent. What even Aabhas ji was talking about to some extent. And good non-fiction work, allows you to dispel these false narratives because, writing a short tweet or an X post just gives you that much space. However, a book, remains with you. It remains for eternity. It allows the author to expand and talk about the subject in great detail. So I think it's a role of responsibility. I just wanted to tell you one quote of mine, which is my favorite quote from the quality guru W. Edwards Deming, which says that in God we trust, rest must bring data. So the approach is that, I'll trust you if you're God, but otherwise, please bring data.
Right. Right, totally right. So now I want to ask both of you. With the advancement of AI and the technology, so how do you incorporate that into your research, into your writing? How do you, go about that? So, Abhashi.
So see, I am from a field which is badly affected by AI, and I use the word quote affected unquote very responsibly. I'm an architect, and in fact, when AI was had started to bring its feet here, I saw the clients walking into my office, bringing the renders themselves. That okay, we want this thing to be done. So that gone way beyond the Pinterest architecture. We have a term called Pinterest architecture, by the way, that you pick from the Pinterest and you are already an architect. You are done. So the clients would then bring the AI renders to us But
Right.
the point, what really is very essential is AI is a tool. It's a tool which can ease the work for you. But in the field like architecture, of course, I will come to the history part too. But as far as the field of architecture is concerned, which is very creative, it requires your creativity to a large extent, where you want to create a space which does not exist. You are just trying to think of something, want to imagine something which does not exist. Now, if you really want to make a mark or touch the soul of your client or say the user, you need to know them, and AI can never know that because there is always a tussle between consciousness and what the science wants to do. That consciousness is something which is never going to lie with the AI. It's ever going to be absent. Now, when it comes to an ideation, you can think that okay, I can give you certain ideas, but that would be based on what the data are already there in the data bank. It cannot go beyond it, right? Go beyond, like, if you, even if the audience are not aware about this, you can search about a building called Falling Water. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, a very famous building where the water was falling. Now, imagine that in that time, if AI would have come, would have it been able to imagine that idea? No, it can only come from a soul where you're thinking that from your the falling water kind of a structure can be created. So it is always to the soul. Now, same goes with the history writing too. Now, when you want AI to write an answer for you, say that if you want to, like again, I will give the most abused thing, say Rana Sanga and Babar's case. You put the question to the AI from a perspective, it will give you the answer to the perspective which you want it to align to. It can be because it will just pick the data, whatever is favorable. Like if you want to compare, say that, say for example, both the things are bad, alcohol and soft drink. None of them are great, right? They have both. But when you do a comparison between two of them, you will see that if you want to prove that there's whether beer is good or not or alcohol is good or not, you'll get whatever answers you want it to say. You can do the same with a soft drink, but they have their own peril. Now, as far as history writing is concerned, as I was focusing on the primary sources, now people don't even have the books available there, right? Say Akbar Nama. Akbar Nama is not something which is easily available, though translations are there. Farsi manuscript is still with the Britishers, right? So if you want to access it, you have to go there and check that what the. So even for AI to validate it, it first needs to read that, but it cannot read it because it's not in public domain, right? So when you're working for this serious subjects like this, you just can't rely on AI. I'll just give you one more example. Say when I was working on my book around Hitler, Palestine, etc. There, I had to dig more than 1,000 archival documents. Now, that could only happen if I have access to the German archives, if I have access to the war trial, etc. AI can't do it for you because they don't have the data, right? So there's just so many works which are to be done for which AI does not have any bit of information about. And if polishing, writing, etc. is concerned, so again, that is something which I have both side opinion about it. When you write with the heart, it's always what you want to do. At times, AI follows certain pattern, and that's why your work will not feel like a good read. And in fact, I was discussing with Aditya ji in Nagpur that right wing really needs to learn how to write good books, and it's a very important thing. And I'm always in praise of William Dalrymple because he's a great writer. We need to learn how to tell the story, and that is what AI can never do for you. So I still believe that even though AI comes at a zenith, we have a lot of homework to do, and only a homework done by a human being can serve the cause. See, there's a difference between serving the cause and finishing a task. It will finish a task for you, but if you want to do a thing for the cause, it has to have human intervention.
Definitely, definitely. Aditya ji, your input into this?
So, I agree to a lot of things that Abhas ji said. I'll just add to this. Like he said, it's a tool. There are now number of tools, right? There are number of AI models. So it's like either you see one, AI model like a Swiss Army knife and use it for multiple things, or if you're a skilled technician, you'll know which model to use for what data or for
Right.
what task. So that's one. Secondly, again, I'm using the word skill technician, like Aabhas ji talked about soul and all of that from a more artistic, creative point of view. I am saying that it's a skill technician because how you prompt the AI is very critical. That's become an art to itself. But unless you have, I think a good background knowledge and understanding of the subject you're querying, you will not understand some of the garbage that sometimes comes out of AI. So you have to really be careful. It's extremely powerful. Obviously, it's getting better every day. But these are the two things that you have to be worried about. Secondly, a lot of these large language models are themselves have inbuilt biases. It depends on the data that they were trained on. So a lot of the things coming out have certain biases just based on the fact of how they were trained. So one must be very careful, how you ask the question, how do you prompt it? You need to sometimes, not sometimes, you need to for sure fact check the output yourself and then see how to use it. So I view it more as one other source of, research and data, but one that needs to be fact checked, one that needs to be used carefully. Maybe it's like, to give a cooking analogy, it's another ingredient or another spice or masala that we need to use today, but it needs to be done carefully and sparingly. And especially if you're trying to tell a story, again in the non-fiction genre, which is more fact based, you have to be doubly careful of the output you're getting from AI.
Hmm. Definitely. In fact, I was recently reading a news that someone from the big four companies, they handed out a report which was made through AI, and the facts and figures were all wrong. So yeah, definitely, while it's a great tool to assist you, but it cannot be used directly for any kind of research or validation. So with that, I'll just take one more common question, and then I'll be diving into the individual questions round. So in your opinion, what is the biggest misconception people have about India's past and its future potential? So, Abhaji, why don't you go first?
So one of the biggest misconception, actually, we can't take politics out of when we discuss history. So I will need to bring it, even if people like it or not. So, see, there are two wings. I don't believe that there are two wings in India, left wing, right wing, but just for the common parlance as how we see it is the left wing and right wing. Both are very notorious, and both come up with their own extremes. Like while left wing is always in a denial that nothing great happened in India, while right wing is going overboard that everything great happened only in India. So these are the two extreme. And so because you asked about one misconception, but there's so many to list out,
Definitely,
both from the left
definitely.
and right.
The
So
biggest.
yes, so that's why I first thought to generalize it that one of the biggest misconceptions which both the sides have is about the greatness of India. While one says that nothing great happened in India, other says that everything which great happened in the world happened only in India. And it's very important to strike a balance between the two because the truth is always with the balance. Because, of course, there was a lot of things. Say, for example, let's talk about mathematics, let's talk about algebra. The base foundation surely were laid in Hindustan, Bharat, as we know, but a lot of work were later done outside India too, right? But of course, algebra has nothing to do with algebra and how it propagates, and those things are there. Now, when it comes to the propagation of the quantum physics, then we want to establish that quantum physics is completely out of Vedanta. Though, of course, principles are there, but you talk to the people of who is expert of the quantum physics, they will tell you that, oh no, yeah, it cannot be. Because, see, there's a difference between being philosophical about something, but to apply it, you need a lot of brilliance, right? Just a philosophy cannot take you to the result through the science. Science is a very different subject where you, of course, do the observation, experiment, and inference. And there's a long process. Those three words require a lot of efforts, and it can only happen if you are really expert into the field. You are all equally skilled to understand the science, execute the experiments, and then come with the result. Just a philosophy cannot give you practical results, right? So, and the other thing which is most really terrifying is that while left wants to pull all the evils which happened within Hindustan, like say the caste system or say the caste division, it came from Hindustan. This is what they say, and that is the genesis of slavery. A lot of leftists have gone on record to say it, but that's not true, right? Because of course, all the society across the world. I'm not also a denier of a thing that nothing bad happened. I agree that there would have been caste discrimination, there would have been things. I'm not going to say that kuch hua hi nahi hoga, but this social structure existed everywhere. Whether you talk to about Egypt, you talk about Persia, you talk about the Greeks, you talk about the Britons in the later phase, everyone had this class system. It was a very natural way of living that life. And as far as Indian rights denial is concerned, it will be very wrong to say that we never had any kind of division, right? Because it's just that British weaponized it for sure. They made it even worse. But it will be wrong to say that nothing was happening in the past. It was all hunky dory. ऐसा भी नहीं था. But it was not that bad too. So we need to strike a balance there, and once we do it, perhaps we can have a better perspective toward the history because history needs to be very objective. The moment you derail yourself, that's where you are doing a big disservice to Indian history because Indian history is so glorious. The moment you go to this WhatsApp Gyan, it takes away all the merit what our history had. Because if I will go and say that, okay, this is, then I will call it, because he called Babar bad, so he's a right wing historian. So, of course, what he will say is going to be garbage because someone else did said something. This is what right wing does. So, this really loses the cause for the nationalist historiography, and we need to be very cautious about these things.
Hmm, definitely. Aditya, what about you? What do you think about this?
So, a few things, I feel one misconception in modern narratives is trying to pass off India as some old, medieval peripheral country. So, one thing is for sure, and data supports, India had the largest contribution to world GDP, for nearly 800 years in the common era. So, this is a fact. And we were systematically looted first by the Mughal invasion and then also by the British colonialization, so that there is no doubt in it. So these are few things that one must understand and take pride in our civilization and culture and where we are coming from. We cannot have a defeatist mindset in India. I keep telling, and something I'm trying to tell in the book with data is to understand all of this. Because if you don't know where you're coming from, we will never know where you're going. So that's where, factual historians like Aabhas who are telling this history with storytelling and with a lot of facts are very important to, kind of illuminate all this for our young generation, because we must have a pride in where we are coming from and in our ancient civilization. So that misconception should go. Also, the Gen Z, etc., what they see today, a lot of the narratives come from popular movies, Hollywood, all of that. They are very good at this. We need to also, make our soft power much stronger. The Indian narratives, the Indian stories. Again, that's the work that Aabhas and others are doing, which are very important. I hope, a lot of these things are made into movies where we can understand it much better. I think the one
Right.
other big misconception is that whatever has happened in India, this tremendous development and how we've become the fourth largest economy in the world and will soon be the third largest, has happened because we have just muddled our way through. ये तो हो रहा ही था, हो जाएगा, होने ही वाला था. This is absolutely wrong. This has been done with very clear strategy and design. This is not some natural evolution for the country. This has been done with tremendous intelligent design and strategy under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister. So this is another, I feel sometimes there is a misconception about this. So these are the two kind of things that I would like to point out. I think what people don't realize, and about India.
Definitely, definitely. So, with that, let's move to the individual questions that I'm having for both of you. So, my first question is for Abhajji. So, your work challenges many conventional narratives about Mughals. So, what do you believe is the most misunderstood aspect or is of the Baba's legacy?
I will make it more general on Timurids or Mughals, and of course I will touch upon Babur. So it can be also extension of part of the question which we were just trying to address about the misconception. So the extension goes this way, and I'm glad that Aditya ji brought this point that and in fact this is the story why I began to write also about the Timurids or the Mughals. So I am using this word Timurids and Mughals, and I'm very cautious about it. So there would be I will list out three, four misconceptions. One of them is this, that there was not a Mughal empire to start with. They were always Timurids. They never addressed themselves as Mughals. And they hated Mughals, who were the Mongols. They came from the lineage of Taimur Khan, so Taimur Bey. So they called themselves Timurids. And the empire which they established was called Timurid Gurkhania. It was never called the Mughal Empire. Now, touching upon what Aditya ji was saying, that our GDP share was around 25% in the era when the Timurid slash Mughal ruled. And this is the general thing what people tell you when you go and say that, okay, there were persecution, etc., etc. But what was very interesting, when this data was thrown in front of me and I began to look at the same source, then I found that while in this Timurid era it was one fourth of the world, that is 25%. In 1000 CE it was 28%, as in 5 centuries earlier. 10 centuries earlier, 10 centuries earlier, 1000 years ago, in 1C, it was 32%. It was one third of the world GDP share. So 32%, 28%, and then 25%. For the first time, our GDP share went below China significantly in the rule of Akbar in 1605 CE. The same sources tell you. Now, what was the most interesting thing here? While GDP of the people share of the empire, that is the Timurid empire, was constant. Okay, they maintained 25% around. That's fine. We got a little below China, but still it's almost one fourth. GDP per capita growth. GDP per capita is a very important entity to know that what the people are doing, how wealthy they are, was negative. Even in British rule, it was not negative for very long. It was negative. Growth rate was negative. It's very tough to even envisage that how can you. It means that there was no growth. People were becoming poorer and poorer day by day. It is exactly between 1500 to 1820 CE. It means that while the Timurid Empire was able to amass a lot of wealth, people's wealth graph was going like this. It was going down. They are maintaining one level, and this is going this. So it means that people are becoming poorer. So the Timurid rule literally made people poorer. This is I'm calling it a misconception, because the normal thing is that in that rule everything was fine and British just came and and in fact the taxes were highest in their rule. You will be surprised to know that the Timurids did tax till 53%, which is terrible. The more and more fertile your land is, the more and more tax you are supposed to pay. And what is most fascinating thing which I found while digging about Babur was that he literally declared that he wanted to establish Darul Islam, and he claims it. There's a battle which happened in Chanderi. After the battle of Chanderi, he does an inscription and he says that I have destroyed Darul Haram. And when you destroyed Darul Haram, you established Darul Islam. It was very clear. So he mentioned it outrightly very clearly. So his mission was very clear that he wanted to Islamize Bharat, which many people want to gloss about. And of course, one big misconception is that Babur did not demolish Ram Mandir. It's all the misconception in the later phases, because we could not read the inscription. Thus, some side placed the forced inscription, and we fell in the trap because they wanted to date the masjid as old as possible. So the oldest they could go till Babur. They brought a lot of forged inscription, which I have detailed in my book, that how the forgery happened. And somehow the side which was caring for the Ram temple fell in that trap, and they forgot that it was actually destroyed by Aurangzeb. So these are few of many misconceptions which can talk about. And of course, Babur I touched upon through the Ram temple, that I see not Babur as a great hero or something. Of course, he's a villain to me, and I'm very clear about it. But he did not destroy the Ram Mandir for sure. And right wing needs to get over this nonsense of saying that Babur destroyed it, because it does the harm to our historiography. It does harm. We are not people who are finicky to just carry any WhatsApp gyan as we are blamed to be doing. We care for history.
Definitely. Abhaji, first of all, I feel enlightened. Second, I feel cheated. Whatever history or whatever little history I knew of, studying in my standards is all wrong. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll be definitely showing off among my friends. So yeah, my next question is for Aditya ji. So many young people are enthusiastic about nation building, but don't know where to start. So what practical steps would you suggest for them?
So, a couple of things. I'm glad you asked this question because one of the big aims for me for writing this book is a call to action, and I'm encouraging people and especially the youth to do something for nation building. I keep telling people that the youth, we have the median age of 29 in our country. We have this great demographic dividend that we talk about. We need to harness this properly. Just a few people sitting in New Delhi are not going to create Viksit Bharat, neatly package and give it to all of us as a gift in 2047. We'll all have to do something for nation building, from the smallest way to whatever big contribution one needs to give. So this is extremely important. So few things. One, I tell people the smallest things you can do. Now we all live in urban areas. If people follow traffic rules, that itself is the smallest contribution you can do for nation building. If you maintain swachhata, cleanliness, that is nation building. You want to come forward and do something in a much bigger way, that is also great. So nation building can start from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. So that's one clarity. The other things are many things have been already outlined very nicely by the Honorable Prime Minister. He first talked about the Pach Pran, that people can do. I should also take you back that one does not realize that in the Constitution of India, it's very popular to roam around waving small copies of the Constitution and talk about fundamental rights. I think as a citizen, one must be aware of all of this. One must be aware of your rights. But don't forget that there is a section there called fundamental duties, which outlines some very simple steps that every citizen can do, which is good for the nation. So this also you can contribute to nation building and Viksit Bharat. The other thing I would say is, now there is a big call for Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, and also Swadeshi, which has been the call of Honorable Prime Minister recently. In, face of present geopolitics, what we are seeing, a lot of nationalism, inward looking by various countries, trade wars, etc. One must also, contribute to that by trying to buy Indian products, make in India, buy in India, support, local businesses, local made in India products. That is something all of us can do. It's a very small thing to do. Further, Prime Minister has spoken about, doing your weddings in India, travel in India, go see new places in India as far as possible. So these are all steps that every citizen can do. And I think the young people especially should, pick up a few things and do it diligently, seriously, and with conviction. I keep telling the young people in my interactions that I have that don't forget that you are the principal beneficiaries of a Viksit Bharat in 2047. If you're young now, 22 years later, you are like in the prime of your life. So you are the principal beneficiaries of Viksit Bharat, but you are also the architects of Viksit Bharat. So in fact, people like me and Aabhas ji are looking to the youth to help build a Viksit Bharat for us. So they are the, young people with energy, new ideas who will build this for us. So I think it's extremely important.
Definitely. Thank you so much for throwing light on such an important topic. So with that, we are over with the conversation. While I do want this conversation to keep going on and gain valuable insights from both of you, I would I would need to win it over here. Before going on, any message that you want to relay to the viewers, to the young readers, or to the fellow authors? Abaji, any message?
Well, I will. My message will be very simple. The simple message is that in the age where everybody is Gyani, try to be intellectual. And intellectuality can only come with you apply the principle of I have nothing against humanity. My father is a professor of history, so I love humanity. I do work in humanity, but bring the scientific temperament, even if you're reading humanities, because only scientific temperament can take you away from the misinformation. Misinformation is a big threat, whether we are trying to dig the past or whether we are trying to talk about the present or we are trying to set a narrative for the future. It all requires that you get away from the misinformation, and misinformation can only happen with a bit of skepticism. Take all the gyan, but with a pinches of salt, analyze it, see that whether it's falling in the terrain to be called a truth or not. Take it for yourself. Don't take it on the face value. Don't take anything about Baba seriously, until even if it's coming from me or other Mughal emperors, which I will talk about in days to come. Check it for yourself. It's very important, because an only informed and intellectual full Bharat can lead it to a Viksit Bharat or a great Bharat. Without the informed citizens, India cannot grow whatsoever we try, because the moment we fall in the trap of this WhatsApp GAN, and I'm using this very responsibly, this term WhatsApp GAN, because we are flooded with a lot of WhatsApp GAN from right, left, center. It comes from everywhere because everyone wants to do their politics. And this era where one click can give you the information, it's a very dangerous terrain where in that contour, but we need to hold strong there. We need to have that foundation which can hold on that contour. And it can only happen if we have a scientific temperament towards it. It doesn't matter which stream you come from.
Definitely. Aditya ji, any message that you would like to relay?
So, great message, Aabhas ji. I think that's very well said. I'll just end by something that one of my favorite quotes from Honorable Prime Minister, which is "यही समय है, सही समय है, भारत का अनमोल समय है." So really, we are blessed to be in this time. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity in Bharat. We all have a lot to do and a lot to look forward to. So thank you. It was a very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aditya ji. Thank you so much, Abhaji, for joining us today
Thank
and sharing your valuable contribution and insights with me and the reader. I personally enjoyed a lot. I would just go on and listening to both of you. But yeah, thank you so much, guys.